Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lethality series. This is episode 16, and today we're going to talk about the raid. So, this is also a Ranger school graded task in mountains and Florida. It is only conducted at the platoon level due to the amount of people required to successfully perform one. So, you will never do this in Derby. You'll never do this as a squad. You need a platoon size force or greater to conduct one of these successfully and safely. A couple of things. So we're going to run through the talking points, the whole do this in order, and then we'll do the pictures, and then we'll talk through it again with the moving pieces, so that's not kind of split up. So changing the format a little bit here today, but we're going to jump right into it. So what is a raid? A raid is a form of attack, and it's usually small scale, involving a swift entry into a hostile territory in order to secure information, confuse the enemy, or destroy installations, followed by a planned withdrawal. Again, squads do not conduct raids, and then the sequence of platoon actions for a raid is almost identical to those of an ambush. So famous raids, Trojan Horse can be considered a raid. Operation Kingpin, which is the raid on the Son Tay prison camp in Vietnam or North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. The Cabanatuan raid, which is a famous Ranger raid conducted by the 6th Ranger Battalion in the Philippines to rescue the survivors of the Bataan Death March. Go look that one up. That one's freaking insane and a textbook freaking raid, right? And then you have Operation Neptune Spear in the GWAT, which is the famous raid on Bin Laden's compound. Quick aside here, the raid that I'm teaching is not the same raid that you do in Ranger Regiment, and I'm not going to teach that one because it's an active tactic that people use. So this is again, Ranger school style tactics. We do train this. This is like our platoon live fire. We conduct this kind of classic raid as well, just to stay current on it. So fundamentals: surprise and speed. You need to infiltrate without being detected. Coordinated fires. So you need to seal off the objective with direct and indirect fires, organic and inorganic if possible. Organic means simply the weapons carried by the platoon and attachments, and then inorganic would be, calling for air support, calling for fire support from another unit. You need to have violence of action. You need to overwhelm the enemy with fire and maneuver, and then there needs to be a planned and phased withdrawal. So you have to withdraw from the objective in an organized manner while maintaining security. All right, jumping right into it. Actions on, and we're going to talk through recon. So the platoon is going to occupy the ORP according to SOP and prep for the leader's recon. PL squad leaders, security squad, and a surveillance/observation team will constitute the raid's leader recon. Again, security, you can either leave them in the ORP and then place them later, or you can take them with you on the leader's recon if you are short on time. The PL is going to issue the GOTWA to the platoon sergeant, and then while the leader's recon leaves, that platoon sergeant is going to prep the men in the ORP for the raid. So special equipment, tripods, demolition charges, all that good shit. Make sure the rucks are in a ruck plan and, maintain security at the ORP. All right, the recon. Again, you're going to establish a release point or a rally point, and then that PL is going to pinpoint the objective, making sure that they're close enough to the objective. Sometimes you might put your RP, like 800 meters away, and you might need to return and move it a little bit closer to the objective. Again, completely dependent on the situation at hand. And then he's going to place that S&O team in a position that they can observe the objective, and he's going to issue them a GOTWA and a compromise plan. The leader's recon is going to verify the location of routes to these to the templated positions such as support and assault, as well as the locations of left and right flank security. And then he's going to in place security before leaving the RP for the actual recon of the main objective. The PL can either walk each security position into their spot by hand, or he can give them a distance direction description, show them on the map and direct them that way. And that security squad leader is going to go usually on the side that's going to anticipate, more enemy activity. So if you have, enemy to the north, that more northern side security is going to want to be beefed up with the squad leader. And then they both need to have radios to be able to communicate with the PL for the withdrawal, and in case they do spot enemy approaching the objective area while either during the recon or during actions on. So security, they need to be in place in areas they're going to be able to give early warning to the main body of counterattacks, reinforcements, or any other threat. And their position should not restrict the support or the assault elements in their fires. You can also call security isolation because they're isolating the objective and preventing anything on the outside from coming into the fight and into the objective area. You have support. Support needs to have clear lines of sight into the objective area as well as cover and concealment. This can also be called containment. So containment, their job is to make sure that nothing leaves the objective area. And then you have assault. The assault line is typically going to be, around the last covered and concealed position, and it needs to be big enough of an area to conceal 2 entire assault squads online. And assault is just called assault. So they're going to, after they in place security, the leader's recon is going to recon the support position first, and then followed by the assault position. And then at that point, the PL is going to either confirm, deny, or modify his plan and issues instructions to squad leaders. So those squad leaders, the PL is going to assign positions and withdraw routes to all elements. He's going to designate control measures, which we're going to talk about here next. And then he's going to allow the time for the squad leaders to disseminate information once they return to the ORP. Every single ranger needs to know what the plan is. So he's going to do his best to make sure that everyone knows. At minimum, again, if you're crunched on time, the fire team leaders need to know the plan, ideally shown on a map with an overlay or drawn in the dirt hastily. But that squad needs to understand exactly what their role is on the objective, and they should kind of already know that in the planning phase of the mission before you step out. But if the PL has to modify the plan at all, they're going to need to update the squad on that. All right, so control measures here. So this is not specifically for raid. This can be applied to any kind of mission, and we haven't really talked a lot in depth about these. So we're going to launch right in. Element objectives. So specific areas of the raid site that will, my spelling, that a designated squad or fire teams, that'll be a designated squad's or fire team's responsibility to clear, destroy, neutralize, or search. And then you have your lanes. So left and right travel limits for the assault squads as they maneuver through the objective. And then you have your limits of advance. Again, we've covered LOAs before. It's going to be where you stop, 35 meters past the last known enemy position to maintain and set up a new security position. And then you have phase lines, which we haven't talked about. This maybe is going into, more officer centric kind of stuff for planning, but good for everyone to know. So a phase line is a line, as a terrain feature extending across the objective used to control and coordinate the assault as well as support fires. And then you have your TRPs or target reference points, which is a recognizable point on the ground leaders use to orient friendly fire or friendly forces and to focus and control direct fires. And these are going to be typically buildings, vehicles, defensive emplacements, really anything that's super noticeable, super easily identifiable, and of key tactical interest. So intersections, buildings, again, vehicles, anything is very easily seen from the support positions. All right, so here's a little graphic of what this raid is going to look like today, zoomed in a little bit. So we have our TRP1, we have TRP2. So TRP1 is a mortar pit, TRP2 is a watchtower, maybe a machine gun nest in the tower. This is our objective area, so we've got some kind of small enemy fire base with a mortar pit and housing, and maybe it's a staging point for patrols in the area. And the mission now today is to take this out. All right, so we have our phase lines here. So our phase lines typically are named something, and it can be any kind of naming sequence, really. So we're using football teams for this one. So we got phase line Pirates, phase line Seahawks, and then phase line Eagles. And this is used to communicate to the support element exactly where the front line trace of troops is, and it's used to coordinate shift fires. So we'll talk about here how this works once we get to the actual demonstration at the end. All right, so actions on. Once the remainder of the platoon is ready, the PL is going to either move the entire platoon to the release point, or he's going to emplace each element from the ORP. Either way, a ORP security team needs to be left and given a GOTWA. On the way to in-place support, the PL is going to check in with the SNO and see if there's been any updates to the objective at all. So maybe there was a fucking truckload of dudes that showed up, and now the odds are not stacked in their favor. Or maybe they got wind of a patrol in the area, or maybe some ISR assets spotted the platoon on the ground, and now they're on high alert and potentially have already called for reinforcements or are starting to prep for fires on the assault force. So they're going to make sure that shit doesn't happen, in which case it's not too late to call off the raid. They just call security back from their positions and, get the fuck out of Dodge. All right. So support's in place, right? They have containment set on the objective, and then assault is going to be placed last, and they're going to use a probable line of departure, PLD, and they're going to move into assault formation. So, generally online in a lazy W, shallow wedge, that type of thing. And they're going to move towards the last covered and concealed position. And the assault position needs to be close enough to the objective for an immediate assault if compromised, so within small arms range. In the case of a longer approach over maybe sparse terrain, the support by fire may choose or maybe plan to open up sooner to provide cover for the assault element to get into position. Once set, the element leaders are going to notify the PL. So as soon as support's set, they're going to notify the PL. PL is going to immediately start placing assault, and then once assault is set, the PL will be there with them. And a no later than time for support to initiate should be established in case of radio failure. So once support is set, let's say they got a 10-minute clock from the time support is set, or a no later than time. So 2100 hours. Once 21 hours hits, support's going to open up. So assault needs to get their move on and get there. All right, so the PL is going to initiate the raid with the most casualty producing weapons first. So he's going to either radio again the support, or they're going to open up on command at the designated time given in the brief. And depending on the objective and what kind of targets there are, you might choose to initiate with a rocket launcher of some type, or a recoilless rifle if you have like a Carl Gustav or an AT4. Those are going to fire first, immediately following the 240s, the belt feds. So, and we're going to do a designated like actual support by fire class. We talked about machine gun basics, but we're going to do like exactly how a support by fire runs as well, because it's a little bit more nuanced, and it's important for that weasel to plan and to know his round count and to do correct machine gun math to ensure that his gunners are not going to run out before the assault has cleared the objective. So we'll cover that in another video, but that's super critical. You don't want your support to run out of ammo before the assault even begins. So good planning needs to be conducted based on the amount of rounds available to that support by fire line. All right, action's on. So once support by fire has gained fire superiority, the PL is going to direct assault to maneuver towards the objective. And the assault is not going to immediately start shooting. They're going to wait until they're engaged, or until the LCC, and until they're ready to pick up the fight. So that's another way for the support by fire to know that, hey, the assault element's at the LCC, and we need to begin to get ready to shift fire. So once they're at that assault, that last covered and concealed, the PL is going to signal support to shift fire, and he's going to get a confirmation before the assault starts to penetrate the objective. Penetrate. And they may plan for multiple ship fires throughout the assault, and then the assault is going to attack and secure the objective. So they may need to breach a wire obstacle, a fence, gate, compound wall, etc. So they will need to establish a local support by fire, either from another squad or a fire team, while that breaching element is going to do their thing, whether it's set up a mine wire obstacle charge, cut a hole through a fence, something. Get that gate open, whatever have you. And then the assault is going to bound by teams through the objective, ensuring there's a solid base of fire provided by the remaining fire teams. At minimum, you're going to have one squad as the base of fire and then the other squad maneuvering. But if you're encountering heavy resistance, you might only be able to bound a single team at a time. So Rangers are going to utilize proper individual movement techniques, as well as maintaining a shallow wedge. You don't get online and sweep or clear through the objective on a raid. That's not how it works. It's not like doing a battle drill 1 alpha where you you get online and clear through. That doesn't happen on a raid. So they're going to assault all the way to the limit or the limit of advance, and then they're going to establish security, consolidate, reorganize, and then provide lace reports, making sure that all the key weapon systems are manned. And then special teams are going to be dispatched and providing aid in prepping wounded rangers for exfil. In the Ranger Handbook, it puts litter teams prior to clearing the objective. However, I would make sure that you send your at least your dead checks, your clearance team, to make sure there's not any enemy alive with lying on a hand grenade while that litter team is going and trying to retrieve wounded rangers. So on order, the other special teams are going to perform their duties. So you have a demo team. Let's say the mission is to destroy something. Those demo teams are going to go to work and prep their demo charges. And then the PL needs to give clear task conditions and standards to all special teams. And then they need to report to the PL when assigned tasks are complete. So all of our special tasks are complete. We've cleared the objective and we have our demo set. Assault is going to get 100% accountability of MWE prior to leaving the objective. And then on order, they're going to withdraw, maintaining control and security. They're going to bound by squads back to the LCC, and then they're going to go through a choke point either established by the PL or one of the squad leaders to ensure accountability again, and then they're going to move towards the release point. Once the assault is a safe distance away, not necessarily all the way back to the RP, but maybe halfway there, 3/4 of the way there, the support element is going to withdraw and head to the RP as well. The Weasel is going to make sure he ensure accountability of all men and equipment prior to leaving the support position. So you don't want to leave any fucking tripods, any guns, pieces of guns, etc. Any barrels. Barrels are a big one. Those will get left, potentially quite often. So once support is a safe distance away, again, the PL is going to make sure he contacts security teams and tells them, hey, wrap it up, get back. And they're going to withdraw to the RP. Again, they need to make sure they have accountability of their men and equipment before leaving the security position. So if they placed a claymore, they need to go and retrieve that claymore if they didn't use it. So 100% accountability is again conducted at the release point and prior to returning to the ORP. That's kind of like your last chance to make sure you got everyone and everything before you leave. At the ORP, all of your equipment is going to be secured. You're going to put all your tripods back, etc. And then the platoon is going to move out of the objective area a minimum of a kilometer, 1,000 meters, or a major terrain feature away, ideally both. And then that PL is going to report mission accomplishment and any priority intelligence reports to higher and continues the mission. Maybe heads to a patrol base or maybe conducts a time-sensitive raid or knocks out a time-sensitive target or conducts a time-sensitive raid based on information provided or maybe an ambush. Again, completely dependent on your mission and the situations on the ground. All right, now we're gonna walk through the graphics for today. I used a Google Earth image here, so it's a little bit more realistic with our templates. I didn't have to copy and paste a bunch of fucking trees, and it just looks better. It's more natural. So Google Earth is a great planning tool. We used it all the time. We had a cool top secret version that had a lot of shit on it, but I digress. So we've got our objective area here, and then we have our objective rally point. And this is like a camp again, like in the middle of an area. And there might be conducting patrols out of this, and our platoon is tasked with destroying this fire base. All right, so here we go. So we're on the leader's recon now. Leader's recon has established the release point or the rally point, and then they have placed the security and observation team. They have a clear line of sight to the objective, and then we have our left flank security and our right flank security down here, kind of cut off. They're watching this road or this trail to the north, and then you can't see it on here. Maybe back ways here. There's this intersection of a trail here and this big open area as well that the security element is established at. All right, so we have our templated support by fire position with their left limit being this tree line here, and then their right limit being the southernmost wall of this fire base. And then we have our templated assault positions, and then we're going to roll right into it here. So they recon these areas first, and then they do the whole, everyone goes to the RP and in places one by one element at a time. So we have assault 1, assault 2, they're at the LCC ready to roll. So that support by fire is going to open up and conduct fires across the objective. If you remember from earlier, those TRPs, he's going to direct each gun team to engage a specific TRP as their primary direction of fire. So gun 1 on the far right is going to be in charge of the mortar pit. Gun 2 in the middle is going to have these buildings, and then gun 3 gun 3 is going to have TRP2 as well as this last northernmost building. So again, we're going to get a shift fire before we even leave the LCC. So assault gets here, they might start opening up, and then that PL is going to signal for the first shift fire. So before we get to phase line pirates, we're going to get that shift fire confirmation. All right, so assault 2 is our breaching element. They conduct the breach of the fence or the gate, with assault 1 being a local security or local support by fire potentially, or one fire team conducts the breach and the other team is the local support by fire. They have reached and obtained a foothold within the objective. We have our support by fire here shifted off 15 degrees off of the assault element, and they are continuing to shoot at this objective and suppress it. So we have our, again, localized support by fire, and this is going to allow assault 1 to maneuver into the objective area. And we're going to signal for a second shift fire here. So we're ready to, we've cleared phase line pirates, and we are moving on phase line Seahawks. So we have our shift fire confirmation. Support by fire is shifted entirely off the objective. Now they're just focused on this wood line up here to the north. And we are ready to move on phase line Seahawks. We're bounding by squads or fire teams. Didn't break these down into fire teams. I didn't think it was necessary. We have assault 1 getting a foothold in this building, and then we have assault 2 following, and then assault 2 gets a foothold in the last building and provides cover fire on that tower for assault 1 to get in clear. And then we have established our LOA here. So we're not, pointing directly to the north here. We have, support by fire is still able to maintain security for us here. So we're kind of pointing out here, and then we're pointing out to the east here. Again, we have security in this wood line down here, and then they're covering the rest of it. All right, so phase withdraw. We are going to bound back. We'll bound back to here. Assault 2 is going to hold the mortar pit once again. And as they're bounding back, this is something we didn't talk about. That support by fire is going to shift back onto the objective, so they're covered here. They're not going to necessarily be shooting. You wouldn't be leaving. You wouldn't be conducting a withdrawal necessarily unless there was a significant counterattack happening. But they're going to shift back on, again, assuring they're 15 degrees off of the assault elements. And that's something that either can be signaled, or the weasel can be watching the objective and seeing when he can shift safely his guns back on to cover the objective and provide support or cover fire if needed for the assault elements. All right, so we had our special teams go, and our task here was to destroy the watchtower and the freaking mortar pit, mortar tubes, and demo blows. Support by fire is still on while the assault elements are returning to the RP. All right, so assault gets to the RP, support by fire gets to the RP, and then lastly but not least, our security elements are going to return to the rally point, release point, and then we're going to head back to that ORP and Charlie Mike. So this was, quick rundown of a platoon raid, and a lot of these elements can be used in a lot of different ways. So phase lines are super important for this type of mission. You won't necessarily use phase lines for an ambush, just because it's a smaller objective area and you already have, like the road, the kill zone, those places to kind of to dictate and can use direct fire. Those are your direct fire control measures. You have the kill zone, and you won't move on the kill zone until support is shifted off. So hopefully that was eye-opening to you all. It's kind of a quick textbook raid example. Let me know what y'all think, Rangers. Let me know if I missed anything. Hopefully this provided value to each and every one of you. And thank you for watching. Hit that fucking like and subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. What the fuck are you doing? And, let me know if you have any other questions down in the comments below. And we will see you all on Tuesday.